This is Tech to Adoption, How to Connect the Dots, a 7-minute insightful presentation. And at the heart of retail's ongoing transformation, there is a tectonic shift in focus, from the point of sale to the point of experience. To achieve this, retailers have to think about where to start and how to get there. Through this session, we share our learnings, dispelling the myth and highlighting that it is not just about tech, it's about how you adapt it, operation it, and we also reveal key principles to build a sequence that connects the dots between where to start and how to get there. Well, to throw some light on this fantastic topic, a very interesting one of that, we have Tapan Acharya from CRO Arvind Internet. So let's welcome him with a round of applause. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Over to Tapan.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, my betters, my equals. Nice to have you here today in the afternoon. I was wondering what I may talk. For the past 20 years, I've been selling software, and what would I do to connect the dots? It was a little bit like crystal ball gazing for me. So I was just asking that, why a software guy is getting a place on a retail, and if that to a fashion retail table doesn't make sense. And I was just listening to everyone in the past, and it's been my personal experience as well, is that there is no line actually between online and offline. People are talking that this line is blurring, but actually this line doesn't exist anymore. This is more or less a seamless scenario. And while we are all adopting and dancing to the demands of the consumer, the whole game becomes much more scarier for me as I was talking to my colleagues and all of us on the round table, that how the technology jargon, is scaring us off with beacons and robotics and blah, blah, blah. So it's pretty scared about, technology, retail. And it a little bit felt like the Spider-Man, that, it's so dynamic an environment, you have to chase and solve a problem, thief is running away, and still you have to follow a principle, a book, that what you should do first and how to discipline your approach and things like that. We were discussing some time back Rambo as well, that in order to win the war, you have to become the war, and so on and so forth. So I was just thinking that, what could be the situation. So I thought of, why don't I give some method to this madness and put some principles in place that maybe with this haze of technology and, ever-changing problems, we could put some method to the madness. So I put 4 principles. First principle was to, see the customer journey maps. The customer journey map, the customer is approaching from everywhere. And they are taking functional decisions, economic decisions, and emotional decisions. Various planes. And based on each of these decisions, the map is changing. Sometimes they are coming from marketplace first, sometimes online first, sometimes emotional buying in the store first. And it's very important for any brand to be able to cater to any of these functional, economic, or emotional decisions. And we know the dopamine thing, the way it lights up the brain, and the way it acts on all of us. The second thing was I thought was that while all forms of demand are coming, it is very important to have a unified experience. So whether you provide save the sale or endless aisle, it should be possible to cater to the demands coming from all the sides. And there should be a unified and a single view of the brand. The promos on each of these channels should not differ to each other. That's my first principle I set across. The second principle which I thought I should put was to defragment the supply. Now I chose words very carefully. I didn't want to use unify the supply. I wanted to use defragment the supply, because the supply is available in stores and there are so many SKUs which are wanted by some customer in some demand in some place, but it's not there. It's very important to unify all this pigeonholes and get a single view of it. What does it give? A little bit on the brand side. It, of course, helps you optimize the working capital for sure, but of course, provide more choices to the consumer, and you can have your space better utilized. That's my second principle which I put across. And while I was moving forward, I thought to myself that the most important principle would be definitely around owning the customer. Now, owning the customer, whatever is said is not enough about it. And the least you can talk about is to know your customer, to help the data, empower the clienteling. In the past, people knew the customer, but the two variables, which is personalization and scale, these two variables have taken a little bit power away from clienteling. It was very important to give the power back to clienteling, have the right recommendation there, right communication, deals and promos of what required by the customer. So that came to me as the third principle which I would put to handle this situation. And the fourth and the last principle I thought was definitely around people. In the last 2 days, I've heard so many people talk about that even the best of the technology are a failure if the people on the ground don't want to push it forward. If there are contradicting and competing KPIs between online and offline and store, and they don't want to push it forward because they're not getting incentivized, they're not trained to take the process forward. So of course, to train, to transform, to incentivize is helping. In the past few months, the more I was following this spiral of 4 principles, I was seeing a little bit of an improvement the way it was happening, and the whole game was getting a little better. The word omni-channel is used by each person in its own way. But it's very important when I was just flip the perspective and see, am I omni-competent? Because my customer is coming from everywhere. It's taking functional decision, it is taking an economic decision, it is taking an emotional decision. Am I omni-competent to handle all those demands? And the more and more I designed my principles centered around the customer, I'm finding a good solution and a happier environment for me to succeed. Shopping is a very happy thing. It's a very happy habit. It makes people happy. So I'm just following these 4 principles to make it back happy, to rethink retail, and to connect better with my customers. So that's all I wanted to share, the Spider-Man story. Thanks for listening to me.